And I was on the cell phone to Patrick, so it was a hard conversation. He was back playing on vacation, so we need to move ahead with this when he gets back.
Absolutely. Supervisor Wasik, sure.
I mean, I'm with Aaron that, you know, I think, my question is, the expiration is basically two years off.
About a year from now, a little over a year from now.
Here it says July of 15
Yeah.
in this document. So, the,
Start the process.
So we got
but, yeah, so it's 2 years away, and I mean, it just seems like we're gonna weaken any incentive to try and get coverage for that area if we, you know, go ahead and send this letter. I mean, I was gonna bring up that, what's wrong, since it's a ways off, to have a proper study session and get these maps. You said you have maps with boundary. I mean, let's look at it and make sure that all of our community is covered adequately. I mean, it's really not an option for a resident of our community to have to wait an hour and, you know, die because there's no ambulance to get there. So, before we worry about fast tracking this when it doesn't expire for 2 years, I mean, I'm of the opinion we should spend more time getting a proper understanding of the pros and cons and how much at risk people are up there, and service time and all of that. And maybe look at doing this in 2 or 3 meetings, you know, in another month.
Jim?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd respectfully disagree with that perspective from this angle, and I appreciate what you're wanting to say, to maybe basically treat that as a hook and leverage, but I think what we need is a strong provider who's going to be vested here for the long haul. So by expediting this letter and maybe extending and doing another 5-year renewal period, now they're going to be here for 7 years, not for 2 years. And it's that kind of certainty on their part that invest them in the community to make them a strong partner to be able to help us out to work out this other area. So I think we enhance our ability to respond by developing a program and a solution to this area up in northwest Lassen County by having these folks around for the long term rather than say, well, let's not give them that edge till we negotiate or maybe somehow get them to take in this other. I'm with Mr. Pyle. I think we can amend the area once we define an appropriate program, but I think if we want them to be a player in this area for the long term, we need to give them much more time so they can make the investment decisions both for equipment as well as personnel, because it's not something you just don't roll down to the car dealer and buy an ambulance, and you don't go down to the one-stop center and pick up people to operate the vehicle. I mean, it's a highly technical, regulated area, so extremely expensive. So I think we enhance the ability to respond, I think, Mr. Wasik, to that area by getting these folks, making sure they're going to be around for the long term, because, you know, if you fiddle around with it, they may just pack up and leave, and now we have everybody who's not being served.
Bob?
Yeah,
And I'll get good morning
to
here.
help Larry understand, B and I have been very involved in this since the beginning on emergency.
Well, you're our representative on.
Yeah, on NorCal EMS and the Emergency Medical Care Committee. I have worked very close with Patrick Smith and Clark Stafford, that's President and Vice President Simmons. They are not the kind of people you need to leverage. You know, obviously, with all due respect, you don't know these people and you haven't worked with them, so, you know, in your way of thinking and not knowing a corporation or whatever, you know, might think we need a little leverage on to get them. They're not like that. These people aren't in it for the money. They're in it to help people. They're in it to provide rural emergency medical care. It's all I live for and think about. Patrick Smith, I mean, you gotta meet this guy to appreciate it. And just because we had a contract renewed that did not include that area, doesn't mean they're gonna think, you know, it just don't matter. No, they don't care about that contract. They want to help these people. Patrick's working on a nationwide rural area emergency medical care system that he's trying to put together. So, I mean, they're not just working on, it's not just aiding and that we need to leverage. These guys are looking nationwide. So, I mean, we don't need any leverage with SIMS.
Larry?
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to, I mean, maybe lever was the wrong choice of words, but basically what I'm trying to say is, why not, include something that encompasses the whole area, all of the
Well, we
community?
are.
Well, ultimately, we will.
We are, and that's why my motion said, give staff a high priority to move ahead with SEMDA to include Aiden in the BOS. Whatever it takes to get them to the ambulance up there.
But what's wrong with, doing that
We can still show our support to this letter and move ahead with it, and continue to move ahead to help Aiden.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, it might help. This is just the first step in a multiple-step process. All we're asking the state of California is, because we have to, give us the
allow us
authority to
to-
consider the 5-year extension.
Right.
If we get approval of this letter, this is gonna be back before your board on the actual extension, when all the North County issues can be addressed.
all I would like to see is that, at the next step, can we have a bit more information and some conversation about the.
SIMS has agreed to meet with us. We'll meet with them and hear what their proposals and agree to bring that back to you, conterminous with the consideration of the extension, so you can make a decision going all the pieces.
Aaron?
And you're right, Marty, I think this will, because as you just said, Eric, I mean, this is a very recent deal, so it's still evolving. I mean, they just got soft lines drawn, and it's developing as we go. And I just appreciate that, it was just very timely that this come out with the issue there, and and we had a very good discussion about it, and I want to thank everybody for their input and wisdom and knowledge. And I think it was, as we do make this a high priority to get this resolved in the future, as we're going forward, we'll continue working with everybody. And I think it will become,
The best opportunity,
Yeah, get something.
Mr. Chairman, I think, for the county to be able to respond to the critical need in the Big Valley area is that we don't control a lot of the other forces, whether in Modoc or in Shasta, as it would relate to serving that area. But we do have the ability to work with our providers here, and if we can get that expanded to include that portion of the county, so that we can take care of those folks, I mean, I think that's our goal, and I think the best way to do it is to work with them. Because if we aren't going to get this, this waiver, I would say, I guess you could call this, or blessing from the state, we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to launch
They're
the
gonna have to get started on
RFP
the RFP
process
process,
probably
which
before
was-
the end of this year.
And that was
And it's gonna be long and drawn out and a lot, and very expensive, and I'd rather see that time and that money be put into working with SIMSA to be able to extend their resources into this other underserved or non-served area, and I think that is what this whole process would accomplish. But I think we wanna make it so that we have that partnership with them for the long term, because if they pack up and work to leave, and we have to go back through that same process. We were, as a community, looking like where Big Valley is today, having nothing, and that would be unacceptable.
Our only chance of being able to help North County is to have SEMDA.
Well, the medal.
All that, is to be in partners with them. They are the only ones that's gonna be able to help you.
But let's take the resources that would be otherwise consumed if this approval is not granted by the state, and that allows us to pump it into, get them to extend their services, and it sounds like they're more than interested in doing it.
When you're talking about money, we have an ambulance station in Westwood. Westwood gets 8% of the calls. They're losing big money up there, but that ambulance will stay in Westwood. They don't make it, and it's not that they're making money on it.
We don't want to start debating the locations of ambulances right now. We went through that for a long time, so, okay, very good. We've taken all the comments from the board prior to taking the vote. We've got a motion and a second. I'd like,
I
yes.
don't show a second, I have a motion.
I believe Supervisor Chapman
Okay.
seconded prior to going into discussion. I added this pile of Chapman.
Thank you.
I'd like to open it up to the audience. This is your opportunity to ask any questions about this issue. Obviously, as Mr. Nichols has indicated, I would remind all of you that this will be back before us. We're only asking that we get granted the authority to go ahead and extend the contract if we decide to do so. So, anybody in the audience have any questions on this? Okay. Thank you very much. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to authorize NorCal EMS to send the letter on behalf of Lassen County, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Is there any opposition? Okay, it carries unanimously. Dan, thank you very much for taking the time to come up. It's good to see you again. And Eric, thank you very much for your input on this, and thanks for all your help out there in the countryside. Moving on then to H4, information for the board, and I would remind folks, we are going to go back into closed session to finalize our discussion on the two items. So, Mr. Nichols, anything for the board at this time?
No report today, sir.
Okay. Mr. Nichols, did you make the announcements of the reasons for going into closed session, please?
Members, we're going to return to closed session on existing litigation on Dyer Mountain and potential litigation. We'll make announcements as to enforceable actions following the closed session.
Oh, correspondence. Oh, I apologize. Thank you. Thank you very much. We do have one correspondence that should be noted. That was, it was included in the packet. Certified letter from Planning and Building Services regarding code enforcement case 2013-009, Valenta Cooper. Note the correspondence was already noted. Okay, thank you very much. We can go back into closed session, and we will possibly have an announcement or announcement of no action.